everyone. So I was invited to speak here today because I'm autistic. And, I'm also 26 and single and kind of hope there might be some bright, funny, video game-loving women in the audience. It's a bit of a weird way to meet someone, but come on, it's not that different from an eHarmony ad. Hi, I'm Daniel. I hate toothbrushes, loud noises, and washing my hair. Call me. Okay, maybe not the greatest selling point, but this is what happens to autistic people. We are summed up by the things that cause us problems. So I want you to think about the one or two things about you that you'd rather keep private. So let's say you are Brenda, the award-winning writer and loving mother of two, or Michael, the school teacher who volunteers at the animal shelter. Now, I want you to think about what would happen if I introduced you to someone like this. Say hi to Brenda, the disorganized control freak, and Michael, the lazy, overdrawn couch potato. You see what I'm getting at? That is what actually happens to people on the spectrum. We are actually judged by our distance from so-called normal. And the things that we do that are outside of the ordinary just get added to a list of things that have to be fixed. So since we are a little bit different in the way that we communicate, learn, and interact with our environment, that list can get pretty big. So the consequence of that is that people with autism grow up feeling broken, not believing in themselves, and not believing in their futures. So I think the recent surge in autism awareness is fantastic, but what we're really waiting for right now are understanding and acceptance. Understanding will dismantle preconceived stereotypes, and acceptance will acknowledge the validity of the way that we experience the world. So don't get me wrong, I'm super grateful for the recent rise in awareness, the puzzle pieces, the blue lights, the I love someone with autism t-shirts. That's awesome. But it's not enough. You want to know why? Because awareness doesn't necessarily translate into understanding or acceptance in our community. Let me tell you a story. So I graduated university in 2013. I had trouble finding work. And I got hooked up with an agency that helps people like me to find a job. I sat with the job developer for hours and hours. I told her some of my strengths and my weaknesses so that she could make a good employment match. And now, for strengths, I told her I'm a writer, a public speaker, and workshop facilitator who has an honors degree in communications. And for weaknesses, I said I move a little slowly sometimes, and I have trouble with motor skills, among other things. So basically, that means that I am a little bit clumsy. I have trouble working with my hands, especially when it requires using a measured amount of pressure, like anchoring a steak with a fork and then cutting it with a knife. So I left her with that, and I continued my job search for weeks and weeks, and I checked in with her, nothing, and she calls me all excited. She found a job for me to apply to. I was pumped. That's great. What is it, I asked, anticipating an entry-level office or communications job. It's prep cook in a kitchen. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that the customers wouldn't want a side order of my fingertips with their salads. So I said, well, thank you so much for that opportunity, but I can't do that job given my fine motor challenges. Is there any way you could find me something that uses my communication degree? And she said, Daniel, you'll be able to communicate with the other staff in the kitchen. So let me be a little cheeky here. Awareness, check. Understanding, not so much. And with over 70% of people on the spectrum unemployed, she may not be the only supportive professional whose good intentions are hindered by a lack of autism understanding. So consider our schools. They're aware of autism. 1 in 45 kids may be on the spectrum, so that's not too surprising. However, understanding and acceptance are still a work in progress. So when I found out about my motor skill problems, I started using a laptop. I have since I was 10 years old for everything that I've ever written. And when I was in grade 9, a teacher actually asked me to write a unit test with pen and paper. So I actually was usually an honor student, but I did very poorly on that test because I can't compose answers well that way. So my mom asked that I be allowed to retake the test. The teacher said no. And he said that it would be an unfair advantage to the rest of the class. So, I mean, that it wasn't a huge loss. The injustice of that actually spurred on my advocacy career, but I digress. But people are denied supports for many reasons. I've been doing autism workshops for around 11 years, and parents frequently tell me that they can't get support because there aren't enough resources available, or that there are other kids who need it more. Well, here's what I think. I think that with the right understanding and support, everyone will get what they need in school at all times. The challenges of my friends on the spectrum who can speak will be understood and supported, as will the strengths of people on the spectrum who cannot speak. So, if we can agree that there's work to be done, where do we start? Well, I have 6 exciting ideas. Number 1, let's change teacher degree programs to include understanding the needs of autistic learners. Number 2, let's change curriculums to match the strengths of the student and then tailor the speed and volume of work to match the student's pace. Number 3, let's develop public awareness campaigns that actually feature autistic people and showcase our strengths, our diversities, and achievements. Number 4, in those campaigns, let's feature both speaking and non-speaking autistic people, shattering the notion that those who can't speak have nothing to say. Number 5, let's make changes in law to ensure that people on the spectrum get what they need in school, regardless of where the board decides to spend its budget. And number 6, let's support employers in developing autism hiring programs. We are creative problem solvers who are good for the bottom line, so everyone benefits. Now, that's an ambitious list, but one whose time has come. These kinds of changes, steeped in understanding and acceptance of autism, will mean the next generation of autistic people will be able to grow up, self-worth intact, believing in themselves, and confident in a future that can include them. Maybe they'll be able to experience introductions that don't humiliate them, but instead honor their humanity. Maybe they'll go something like this. Hi, I'm Daniel. I'm a student, a writer, an autism advocate, and I just finished my first TED Talk.